I sit down with the incredibly complex and inspiring Candace Cavazos, a mentor, entrepreneur, and storyteller who brings depth and purpose to everything she does. From her advocacy for marginalized voices to running the Deep End Café Gallery, Candace continues to make an impact through mentorship and creating spaces where people can truly be themselves. We dive into the themes that are constant in her work and explore the heart behind her journey. So now, let's dive into the conversation and continue handing out the MotorCity Crowns. So how did that work out? Like, were you looking for a job there specifically?
No. So yeah, what happened was I moved. So my mom was struggling with addiction, and Wayne County didn't have any available resources for her in the time that she needed them. She was really in need of them, like, immediately. And this is a problem that a lot of people in Wayne County go through, but she could get resources easier through Washtenaw County. They have a program that you have to be a resident in Washtenaw County to access.
Keep going.
Excuse me. Better?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, in Washtenaw County, they have a program that you can access if you're struggling with addiction, where they pick you up and they take you to a rehabilitation facility for several months, and they pay for that for you. And my mom was able to get access to that after us moving there. So that was my original intention in moving to Washtenaw County and getting a place in Ypsilanti. But at the same time, I was consulting with a cafe that was already located in Detroit, and that just taught me a lot about the cafe industry, and the opportunity basically presented itself to open in a space. The owners of the cafe that I was consulting with, they recommended that I take over this space in Ypsilanti that was presented. It was like really affordable, and Ypsilanti has very little rules around you know, how to start, if you know, what it takes to start a business compared to Detroit. There are a lot less hoops to jump through with the city and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a really low stakes way to kind of try it out myself. So that's kind of how that happened. And it was kind of like, well, we have this apartment in Ypsi, and right below it, there's a cafe space. And
so it was all in one.
Yeah, it just kind of felt like, why not try it out? I really love cafe art. You know, I could see that for myself. I never thought about doing it. It was never in my life plan, but it made sense at the time to try it. And my mentors were kind of like egging me on, like, yeah do it. So I think that's pretty much how that happened. But it was my first time opening a brick and mortar, and I didn't realize all of the work it was going to take. So I quickly learned that I needed capital. And so I just started desperately seeking a job with a salary that could, you know, give me stability while I was opening the business and exploring the startup phase.
Right.
And so I reached out to like other colleagues of mine and mentors that I knew from the past, like through the University of Michigan, because I went to school there, and reached out to Jenny, who became the director of Optimize, and I was an alumni of Optimize. That's a program where if you're a student at the University of Michigan or a community college student in Michigan, then you can basically join the program. You attend workshops about social innovation and entrepreneurship, and then at the end, you get to develop your idea over time and then pitch for funding from Optimize. And then, I got the funding when I was a grad student in 2018. And so I knew Jenny from that and reached out to her and was just like, hey, if you know anything, I really need a job. And she's like, yeah, actually, we need you here. So I was like, cool. So I applied, went through the interview process, got hired, and became their program manager for mentorship at Optimize.
So the program that you got funding from helped you to actually get a job with it.
Yes.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's like full circle.
Yeah, full circle.
And it really like speaks to the value of, you know, just like trying things and doing things and building good relationships with people, because you never really know down the line how that might be able to come back around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's incredibly important to make those connections.
Yeah, it's really wild. And what's even more crazy is that the project that they funded was on mentorship. Me and my partner and best friend, Kay, Her name's Kaylin Sandifer. She's a social worker and a host and a million other things in the city of Detroit, and does a lot of community organizing. And we partnered together on that project and got funded. But it's just wild that our project was to basically develop a unique mentorship program for, non-traditional students and people from non-traditional backgrounds that are entering spaces of like entrepreneurship, academia, and just professionalism in general. So it was cool that now I'm working for Optimize, leading mentorship again.
Yeah,
because it's clearly what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, and that's amazing. So Oceania, I know of you from your poetry. Mm-hmm. And I've bought one of your books and heard you recite some of them through the videos you posted.
Yeah.
What is it about storytelling that makes us feel seen?
Ooh, that's a good question. And thank you for all the support, by the way. I think storytelling makes us feel seen because it's usually the stories that you're not sure if other people would understand, or like the stories that maybe might, if told, have consequences. So I feel like when you see someone tell their story or you hear someone's story, it makes you feel seen because you're like, oh my God, this human being is sharing what I thought would be too much to share or would have consequences to share, or maybe I didn't have the right words to put it together in that way. And now seeing it, I feel validated because it's a real story. It's not just something that I'm making up in my head or feeling inside of myself. It's outwardly now. Like once a story is told, it becomes real. So it's like you can think and feel all day inside about your experiences, but until someone really tells the story out loud, it doesn't always. You could convince yourself that maybe it's not real. You know what I mean? And other people can convince you that it's not real. And I think that's how you get like a lot of things swept under the rug, and a lot of like voices and experiences just don't get the attention that they deserve. And people go through a lot not feeling seen, and I feel like storytelling could just be so powerful because it allows you to not only see others who may validate your story, but also expand your mind. Like you might hear a story from someone and think, oh my God, I didn't know that was real. And now that I do know people are experiencing that, I will care now. I will be more aware now of my neighbors and what they might be going through. So I think without storytelling, it's hard to know what the human condition really is, because otherwise you're just relying on like marketing and that kind of thing.
And I think with the storytelling, that once you put it out there, that others who are going through something similar are able to show them their vulnerability by putting themselves out there too. Yeah,
it can be really empowering. You hear someone talk about something and then you're like, oh my God, I think maybe I can do that because I've seen them do that. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Was there a moment in your life when you realized the power of words to create change?
Yes. Ooh, a moment? I've had
moment,
so many
maybe
moments.
A period of time, maybe?
Yeah, I would say definitely college, for sure. Like, I was doing poetry as a teenager, and as a child, I think like the first poetry competition I did, I was like in second grade, and I won, and I got to go like meet the mayor. It was like something that they did, for kids.
That's great.
So I've been doing poetry for a really long time, and I think I knew the power of poetry for myself. Like I knew that poetry could make a difference in my personal development, and that's something I learned really young. So there's that. But when it came to making like a change in the world, or like in society, or like in the community, I think I really noticed the power of poetry in that way in college, because we were a part of a lot of social and political awareness, and there was protests going on, and there's a lot of things going on the college campus, that the college campus is kind of like a micro version of society in a way. And so it's like easy to see, that kind of activism and that kind of awareness happening throughout the campus. So I was leaned on a lot. As soon as people on campus found out that I was a poet and that I could do spoken word poetry, I just started getting asked from everyone. Like every student org was like, can you come do a poem for our event? Can you come do a poem for our event? And it just really took me on like a roller coaster journey of realizing like, oh my God, like my words make people feel things and like make people can make people move in a certain way, and you just start to feel the weight of the responsibility. Like
that must have been felt
I think that's when I realized like, oh, this is not actually just about me and my feelings with poems. It's actually like I got to think about how I make other people feel now. And that gave me like that put me on a whole different pathway with my art.
Wow. You were just saying how that is helping other people. Like they're asking you to do poems about like maybe their struggle. Poetry is often deeply personal. How do you balance that vulnerability with the impact when performing?
That's such a good question. This is something that we ask ourselves, I think, as poets all the time, especially if you're a spoken word artist that performs for all these different audiences like nonprofits and corporations. And when I joined the Guild Poetry Collective, we got a lot of institutional bookings, and those are a whole different ballgame. They have like requirements, and they have limits and boundaries, and they have themes that they want you to stick to and messages they want you to send. And it's always a question of like, how well does this align with my values? And how do I balance being my authentic self and being my vulnerable authentic self in these poems while also meeting the needs of this organization's agenda? And of course, I will say we never performed for an organization that didn't align with our values, but that's like hard to really say because institutions are really big. So in a sense, there's always going to be that clash of like, ooh, I'm doing something good in this moment within the context of this event at this institution, but this greater institution definitely has a lot of things that go against my values.
They might not believe exactly what you're saying.
So it's hard. It's really, really hard to like balance that as an artist and know how to remain like vulnerable and authentic and true to yourself while also like seeing the bigger picture and noticing how your poetry plays a role in the context of the bigger picture. It's a lot, and I'm figuring it out every day. So I don't really
probably a lot of pressure there.
I don't really have an answer for that aside from like I just keep creating and keep challenging myself. One thing I will say though is, and I wish I could find the interview because one time it might have been an interview or a book that I was reading where Tupac Shakur said something like. It was something along the lines of like, when he writes, he doesn't think about how it will affect anybody. He just writes, he just creates. And he basically said that, and I'm summarizing, but he basically said like, if you think about your words and how they impact you while you're creating, then it will mess up the process. It will be inauthentic. It will limit the scope of what you can do, your potential as an artist, and even like have an impact on what your true purpose is to create as an artist. But it's better to just let it all out and create and then go back and revisit and say, okay, now let me look at this like from the bigger perspective and consider how it might impact people. And then if you feel like you want to make edits for a particular audience at a particular time, you can do that. So that's what I've been doing lately is just like creating with no limits without considering how it makes anybody feel, even if it is offensive to some people. And then just going back and being like, okay, now how can I scale this for this particular audience? Because then it leaves you room. Then I can do the really authentic version with certain groups that I feel very comfortable with who understand. And then I can edit it, and fix it up for the reason. And then it still kind of serves the same message, but just in a different dialect, I guess. So I don't know. I'm still exploring that too.
That seems like it could get maybe slightly dangerous.
Yeah.
But then you're able to, if you get to that point, you're doing it so often that it's not really dangerous. People are just like, oh, that's just the way she's doing it. Like,
And
that's
it depends
fine.
on how well you can brand yourself and
Yes.
grow your following, you know, because at the end of the day, the bigger influence you have and the bigger audience that supports you as an artist, then the more freedom you have
Yeah,
to
there's a
do
couple
your
artists out there that
thing, you
do
know.
that
So
push the limits.
it's just knowing the when and the where. Like my mom always told me, like, it's a time and a place. And that's so true. Like, it's a time and a place. Like, if you have something that is in your arsenal that you know needs to be heard, like, it's thinking about, like, when should I really bring that out?
Yeah.
Where am I at in my career where I can make the most impact bringing that out? And sometimes it means waiting, and that really sucks. But like,
Yeah.
I struggle with that.
If we took away all the microphones, the stages, the books, what is it that still makes sharing your experiences and expressing yourself through poetry so essential to who you are?
My sanity.
That's important. That's very important.
Yeah, that's probably it. I don't do poetry because other people like it.
Mhm.
I think I did poetry for myself, and then people happen to like it. And then it's like, I call myself a people's poet because I don't feel like I'd be doing this if it wasn't for people asking me to.
Okay.
Like, if I wasn't asked to be on the mic, I probably wouldn't. If I wasn't asked to create content and write another book to put out to the world, I probably wouldn't. I would be writing and I would be creating, but it wasn't until like other people started telling me, you need to do this in front of other, you need to say this, you should be saying this, that I started being like, okay, maybe my poetry is not just for me. But without all of that, without all of the appeal and the eyes on it or whatever, like, I would be writing every day to understand myself and to cope with my own, my own traumas.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. So we're here at your new location of the Deep End Café and Gallery that you were telling me earlier why you moved from Ypsilanti to Detroit. And you've created an environment there that felt welcoming, and you were blending art and culture and community. Why do some places feel like just another spot while others feel like home?
These are great questions.
Thank you.
I would say it's all about relationships and people. I think what makes our environment different, and this is the goal that we have, the intentional goal that we have, is because we prioritize making people feel good, feel like they're loved, feel like they have a family here. And that was something we heard all the time from people. Customers would be sitting in our cafe just doing their thing, and other customers would come in and out. And oftentimes we heard customers that were sitting tell us, was that your family or was that a customer? And we'll say a customer, and they're always shocked, like, because we do treat people so much like you're just a family member, because we really want people to feel loved, especially because our target audience are definitely like underrepresented identities, like more marginalized identities, identities that have been systemically attacked, for generations and ousted. So like, that work is very vulnerable, and you really have to remain human-centered all the time. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that people don't see, where we are cultivating community, like where we are showing up for people outside of the business to be a friend, to be a neighbor.
Yes.
And so I think that is why the vibe is different, because behind the brand, the people actually care about the people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if other brands have that.
That was a great answer. What did you hope that the Deep End would become, and what did it turn into maybe that you didn't expect?
Oh my gosh. It's actually crazy because I didn't know. I felt like I'm very in tune with my spirit, and I pray every day, and I know who my God is, and every day I get in touch with my spirit as much as I can. And most of my life, like all of my life, has been me doing things because I feel like it's on my spirit to do it. Like God is telling me, God, a combination of God, ancestors, just my purpose has always felt a pulling in my spirit of where I should be going and what I should be doing. And even if I don't understand it or don't like it, and I think the cafe was one of those things. It's like, I didn't fully understand what I was doing. I just felt strongly God telling me, like, I need you. This is what I need you to do. Like, this
You need to create a space for community.
you need to create a space for people. That was pretty much the bottom line. Like, you use coffee, use art, but make a space for people to be their authentic selves, and this is what God was telling me, really. And this is getting deep, but like, it was really, I mean, because the art, the coffee, the events, it's all beautiful. And it's how we show that we are from God, that we can create. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. We're channeling our spirit in that way. And that's why it's so powerful. But all of that is beyond me. You know, like, what God was telling me solely was just to make space for people that are in the deep end, which is like people that are really experiencing the pressures of life. I felt God telling me, I need you to make a space for people going through these things to flock to be validated and loved and celebrated. Yes. For their talents and for you to help them realize their potential. And I think that's the deepest part of the work for me that I feel that I don't really talk about, because it's like, it can sound very like, oh, she thinks she's doing this big thing. And it's like, I don't want to come off like that at all, because it has nothing to do with me. It's strictly on a spiritual level. And I think like it takes everyone involved to make it happen. Like, it's not just me, you know what I mean? And so, but I think that's the root of it, is like making space for people that, I just been in the thick of life, in the deep end of life. I know how hard it is to be out here, especially if you have, if you're coming from backgrounds in poverty or marginalized identities, where you are, where people want to attack you often in a lot of different ways. And sometimes it's not even explicit, it's hidden, and people don't, it can be a psychological mind fuck. And then you're out here feeling isolated and alone, and you don't know which way to go, and you're feeling like the world is against you, and likely it is. So it's like, we need spaces where you can come in and just take a load off. And if you seem a little crazy, no one's going to judge you. And if you seem a little aggressive, no one's going to get too scared of you, because like, we understand that this is like the society that we live in. It can cause us to have breaking points. And I really just want to catch people at their breaking point before they get there. Like, when they're on the way to crash out, like, just come to the deep end and like, and realize how much that you are valued, and that there's a whole community that will appreciate, who you are. Yeah.
I love how there's so much a deeper meaning to the name. Mm-hmm. So I think that's beautiful.
That's where the name came from, for sure.
Thought it had something to do with swimming, but you know what? That's good.
Yes, that's the motto. Just keep swimming.
Yes.
Just keep swimming. Yes, that's, everybody keeps saying that. Like, it's been happening a lot lately. Like, people like, yes, just keep swimming. It's like, we're in the deep end together. Just keep swimming. Just don't stop swimming.
I think that all goes along with like the next question I was going to ask. What happens when you give people that space to create, to speak and just be?
Oh my gosh, it's freaking amazing. It's like, it's amazing. I can't tell you how many artists have already been through. In the last 2 years, we have featured over 48 different artists, and just done so many things. And that's just the visual artists. We've also featured poets and singers and rappers and just everything. And it's never been just transactional. It's never just been, it's always cultivated some truly amazing moments where you see people walk in. We've had many people walk in and feature with us who've never featured their art before. Most of the people that we featured were new at this. They're like, never featured their art before. And we had to do a lot of working with people, like on a mentorship note, like, me doing the research to find out how are you supposed to, what is the best practices? It's because of so many other established artists that we've worked with as well, where I've been able to learn like best practices for presenting your art in a gallery and things you should be prepared for so that you can get access to these opportunities. So a lot of artists have come through our space and been empowered in their amateur phase to explore this like next level of like really scaling your art to monetize, you know, and to present to the public. And watching them do that is just like amazing, the effect that it not only has on their work because they grow afterwards, but like who they are as a person, as an artist, their confidence just like goes up. Like you can see the joy and just like the validation of like, oh my God, I'm actually good at this, and like people like what I do. And next thing you know, they're like going off and doing other shows and exhibitions. Like I would describe our space as a launch pad for artists for sure, because many artists that have come through here have launched into monetized careers for their art. They come from here without ever presenting their work to the public to going into, oh, now they have a full schedule of gallery bookings, you know, across Washtenaw and Detroit. And I'm watching artists go through that, and they'll follow up with us and be like, yo, like ever since I did that thing at your gallery, I've been doing all this stuff, and I'm doing so much work, and it's just crazy. It's amazing.
It's got to feel amazing that you helped that.
Yeah, like to be a part of that, it's like it makes all the hard work really worth it.
Do you think a lot of that's magnified because you were close to a college town, and then you think it'll be more magnified that you're back here in Detroit where there's so many creatives and so many artists that are willing to take any opportunity?
With IPSY, it was kind of tough. I think there's so many beautiful creatives in IPSY, and IPSY has a lot of intersectionalities with Detroit. Some of the problems that people in Ypsilanti are facing are very similar to the ones in Detroit, but just on a much smaller scale, like gentrification and just like lack of resources. You know, there's still people experiencing poverty in Ypsilanti. Drug addiction is at a high in Ypsilanti, just like in Detroit, where you see lots of people struggling with homelessness and addiction on the street. So they're experiencing a lot of the similar problems that we see like in our neighborhoods in Detroit, in a lot of areas of Detroit. And so all of that to say, like, I think the space was equally needed in Detroit. I mean, in Ypsilanti, but I think the college town, it's hard to really know. I feel like we had more engagement from non-students for sure. We did get some engagement with students, but not to the extent that we thought we were going to.
Yeah.
And I think that's because also Eastern is very much a commuter school, which I didn't realize. They have a lot of people like not living in IPSY, but coming to school in IPSY. So there wasn't like as many student residents in IPSY as we thought, especially not for our target audience. But I think it was tough in our location in IPSY. We didn't have a parking lot. It was a very small space. So a lot of things were deterring, and we were tucked away and hidden on like on a side street. So I think IPSY loved us, and I think there was a need there, but I don't think I had the relationships and the networks necessary for people to be aware that like we were present and doing these things. So we did a great stint there, and like IPSY received us with so much love, and it was amazing. But I think the reality is that I have way bigger of a network in Detroit, and I've spent way more time building relationships in Detroit because I'm like kind of from here, and I lived here for most of my life. So, and I've been an educator in Detroit for over 10 years doing work as an educator or community organizer. So I think it was just like when we came to Detroit, it's a much bigger place, and our network was much bigger. So we've been like way more successful. I think I have like a hair on my face. We've been way more like successful in terms of like the number of engagement we've had. We've just got here. We haven't even opened, and we're already fully booked for April. So
that's incredible.
It's wild. It's very
everything
wild.
That you've told me so far about the plans you have, the way you're going to have your space run until you have like a grand opening it's very incredible. I love it.
Yeah, and thankfully it's because of Detroit that I was able to really scale this vision, because I joined MotorCity Match, which is a program to support small business owners, especially if you're like first generation or something like that. And they taught me so much. Like they really held me accountable to like a timeline that makes more sense, and instead of being impulsive and rushing and like, you know, I'm new to all of this. Like I'm a first generation everything. So it's like for me, I need that kind of guidance, and I need people to step in and be like, whoa,
let's scale this. You know, you can't get to the top off rip, you know, you gotta like take your time. And so that's where that came from, of just like taking time and being like, you know what, let's just start where we're at, which we know we can throw events. We're good at that. We know artists need space. We have a space. So we'll just start there with a portable bar, and then hopefully we'll raise money and scale to the point where by fall we'll open up regular business hours as a full-blown cafe, smoothies, all of that good stuff. Okay. And a daily art gallery, which will rotate like monthly.
I love that. If you could walk into the Deep End in 5 years, what do you hope to see?
Oh man. I would hope to see a bigger space. This space we'll have for 3 years. And by the end of this 3 years, I really hope that we can scale up into a much bigger space. At least with a kitchen. If I can at least just have, even if it's this amount of space, but with a full kitchen, I'll be happy. But what I would really love is for us to own our own space or scale up into hospitality. Like, I would love to have, like, this building has Airbnb apartments above it. Like, I would rather own a whole building like this. Oh, absolutely. This building, it has, if we tore down this wall, we would double our space. And we would have apartments above where people, and I would love to offer like more of a hospitality arrangement where it's like, yes, we function as, you know, a cafe and gallery, all the things, but we also offer residencies, and people can live here. People can not live here permanently, but like offer residencies, but also rent out Airbnb spaces. And I just think that would cultivate an even more expansive like artist network. Yeah. And just give also more opportunity for like outsiders to come in and bring their revenue and feed the artist community that is constantly going to be selling their work here.
Detroit has always been more than a city. It's a story. What part of that story do you connect with?
Resilience. Resilience and Renaissance. I think Renaissance is the theme of my life. That's my name in my sorority. They called me Renaissance because I'm trying to revive things. I'm trying to always like innovate things. And like Detroit is known for making the best out of nothing. Like the people of Detroit are the hardest hustling people I've ever met in my life. I've lived in 8 different states. I've lived in so many different cities. I've gone to a different school every year in my life, sometimes 2 in a year. I've traveled a lot. I've lived in a lot of different communities, Black, white, brown, international, immigrant. Like I've lived in a lot of different communities. So I just feel like on my journey so far, Detroit has been the hardest working, the most resilient, I would say, because even when things are so bleak, I feel like we find a way to cultivate joy. We're the biggest party city I've ever seen. Like we're always going to do art. We're always going to do art. We're always going to do, we're always going to have events. We're always going to move fashion, and we're always going to do those things that you would think people in the deep end and in the thick of it wouldn't be able to do. And then it comes out the most beautiful. So it's just like, I think that's like what I resonate with the most is when things are really hard, Detroiters don't stop. We just keep going and we keep creating. And then next thing you know, we become the revolutionary, you know, Renaissance, you know, like behind these things. And I think that's like where I see myself in the city is just, that's why I love it here. I'm surrounded by people who are never going to stop, who are never going to let the hard times like make it so bleak that we just sit here and let our city die. Like it's not going to happen. Even with the blight and with everything, with the divestment from the city that Detroit has this so rich history of all these different things. It could go on and on. But like, I just think our motivation just never stops though. So I align with that.
That was a great answer. Yeah. In what way does Detroit's history, shape the way its people create and lead today?
Ooh. Oh, there's so many answers to that because it's so complex. And Detroit is a very diverse place, and it's a predominantly Black city. So there's so much to say about that. I think when it comes to Black and Indigenous communities in Detroit, I think history has taught Black and Indigenous communities in Detroit to be very self-sufficient And you can see that all throughout Detroit. There are a lot of Black and Indigenous communities that are taking care of themselves, that don't rely as much on like the government to save them. They're teachers. If you go to Black neighborhoods in Detroit, you'll see Black teachers and Black principals. And, and I've heard a lot of, because like I said, I've traveled a lot. So I've met Black people from other places. And when they've come to Detroit, they're amazed. They're like, oh my God, like it's not just a predominantly Black city, but it's Black everything. And it's like, yeah, because like Black Detroiters step up to the plate and they take on the leadership roles. They step into they get in office. They do it, they do the work to like mobilize themselves into positions of leadership, because they know that they have to be the ones in those seats in order to do what's best for their communities. I think history has taught, us that like, if we don't, then we'll just get neglected. And that's when, our neighborhoods just start falling apart. And that's why you get situations like even in Highland Park where there's no school, like it's like it's a lot of like political warfare against Black and brown people in Detroit. And I think it just causes a lot of like self-sustaining resilience, like, oh, we got to just pick this up and figure it out for ourselves. And I see that taking place with just a lot of community care among like the immigrant community in Southwest Detroit, and just Black and brown communities in general, just sharing resources, trading and bartering, making hustles out of their houses, doing a lot of holistic healthcare, doing a lot of at-home medicine and healthcare, which I think, you don't see that in other communities often. Like, so that's really unique in my opinion when it comes to Detroit and the networks we have. And then also on the other note, I think there's a lot of like, on the note of like anyone who's non-Black, not Indigenous, whatever, and I'm mixed up. I'm mutts, including the mutts, all of especially just though the non-Black and non-Indigenous folks, like, and I can include myself in that as well, even though I am part Indigenous, but I'm also part white. And I think, as white people, as non-Black people, and that includes people of color who aren't Black, I think we still have a certain we still have a certain, what do you call it? A proximity to whiteness. And so we do get certain privileges that we don't always even realize. And we do get opportunities where we can enter white dominated spaces and we can take on leadership roles. And I think sometimes I see gatekeeping happen in the city because of that. I think sometimes we know that we have to cater to a certain agenda of whiteness in order to keep those roles. And we can see that play out with people of color in leadership in Detroit in a sometimes toxic way. But I also have empathy because I understand, like being in that position is already hard. And then sometimes you have to like play certain roles to keep your position. And so it's a complex thing in Detroit. There's a lot of socio-political things happening and a deep, rich history of like why certain people might move the way that they do. But I think all to say it's in the best interest of Detroiters to like always be in communication and coming together at the table to say like what is really best for our neighborhoods. Because what I will say about leaders that are not from Detroit, regardless of their race, they might come in and make decisions that we've already seen in some ways, even if it's not intentional, that naturally do not prioritize our neighborhoods, which need the most help. So it's our responsibility. So at the end of the day, it's like, regardless of the perspectives, we all need to be, as Detroiters, making sure that our neighborhoods are prioritized throughout all of the development that might be coming in from outsiders, I think.
I've heard a lot. It was rappers talking about like getting into politics, like supporting like presidents, people that are running for president. And they were like, you know what, if you're not completely in tune with the candidates, focus more on your community, focus more on the politics that actually affect you directly. Yes. Because that'll help you quicker than the stuff that the president can take care of.
I 100% agree with that.
So, yeah.
People don't realize, but it's the small, these moments, even this podcast, this is really important stuff for us to be talking together. Yeah. And even if we can't influence it's good to be able to at least focus on our neighborhoods.
That kind of goes exactly what I was about to say. Like I've noticed, like I did research, but I like looked into a lot of things that you do. And the theme is two themes that I came out with is service and communication. And the communication we're talking about like in the podcast and the service that you do with your job, with the service that you do with being able to give artists an area and a platform to perform and to reach their community and their audiences, the way that you communicate with your spoken word within the in your job, to be able to communicate with students and their ideas and such. So like those are two big themes in everything that I see that you do. We often think of service as an action. How can communication and words be a service?
Oh my God. In every way. Oh my God. Oh man. And this has been a challenge for me in my lifetime because I come from a family who didn't go to college, who, you know, I'm just a regular girl from a neighborhood, from many neighborhoods, but I'm just like regular. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up like how a lot of everybody grew up, just like with parents that were young, didn't know what they were doing. I was bounced around from house to house. I by the grace of God, got access to higher education. And through higher education, going to college, I learned how important communication is and learned the hard way too, because I didn't know how to properly communicate. I didn't know how to express my complex ideas. Like I thought I was really, really smart, and I was, but I didn't know the decorum and the communication style that the world of academia and business in America expects you to have to communicate your feelings. Okay. Yeah. So when I went to college, I got into a lot of headbutting situations because I sounded too aggressive. I didn't use the right, I was offensive by the way I was expressing myself. Like I was perceived as all the wrong things. And I used to be so confused by that because I'm like, I don't think that's who I am. Why am I being perceived this way? But that's because where I'm from, that's how you're supposed to act when you feel disrespected. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's how you're supposed to act when you're upset. You show your feelings. We're very vulnerable in our neighborhoods, and we know that with that comes consequences. And if we don't, stand up for ourselves in a certain way, we might get, just shit on the whole time that we live in our neighborhood. So coming from that and then going to college, it's like I realized the importance of communication and keeping your calm and knowing how to have decorum in those situations. And I challenged myself to grow in that way. And since then, I have been able to become a much bigger advocate for people in my community. Now I understand the importance of how to better communicate your feelings and what you're dealing with and who you are and your struggles, because if you don't, you can easily just be pushed to the side. You can easily just be categorized in a way where you get no opportunity. You can get fired. You can get not selected. If you don't have the right communication skills, you will lose every opportunity every time it comes to you because you don't know how to talk in the situation. You don't know how to write in the situation. You don't know how to communicate. And so I'm countless times over and over consistently working with young people, especially in my job, who come from backgrounds where they don't know the decorum. And this is not just inner city people. This is rural kids that come from the UP. They also come from, it's anybody who comes from an environment that is not promoting that decorum of professionalism and academia that white America expects. That's just the reality. So, and by white, I don't mean I don't mean that as a group of people. I mean that as an ideology. And that's one thing I want to be very clear about. There are lots of poor white people who struggle with this same problem, not knowing how to communicate and have the right decorum in these situations, and they lose opportunities. So it's everything. Communication is everything in every situation. And I'm still learning how to be a better communicator every day. I still have so many moments where I'm like, I wish I would have communicated that differently. I wish I would have said that differently, because words are so impactful. And in order to build good relationships and get opportunities, you have to know how that receiver wants you to present yourself, how to be palatable for them and like get what you want out of the situation, or just be seen in the right light, like to be able to express yourself when you're upset, especially people from our communities, like when you are feeling offended or upset, being able to communicate in a way that is still calm, collected, and reasonable, like using evidence-based communication. It's a life changer. I'm constantly dealing with this with young people. And I also went through this as a young person. So yeah, that's everything.
This episode of the MotorCity Crowns Podcast is brought to you by Pingree Detroit, a worker-owned business crafting high-quality, sustainable goods right here in the Motor City. From handcrafted leather bags and accessories to upcycled pet gear, Pingree Detroit is all about craftsmanship, community, and impact. Plus, as a part of the Motor City Crowns community, you get 10% off your purchase. Just use the code CROWNS at checkout. That's CROWNS, CROWNS, at checkout. Shop with purpose at pingreedetroit.com. Now let's get back to the show. When you were learning how to communicate in that professional world, was that like a challenge of learning how to communicate and not just talk to somebody? Or was it like learning how to actually have them understand you?
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
It was both, I think. I think it was, of course, you want the person to understand you. But even if they don't, you have to make sure that both parties are walking away from the conversation feeling heard.
Yes.
And I think that's the part. It's like you want to feel heard even if they don't understand you. I don't need you to always understand me, but I need you to actually hear what I'm saying and say, it makes sense what you're saying. I still don't fully understand it. That's fine, because you can't never be me. But like, you have to communicate in a way where at least people can respect what you're saying as a reality, you know? Otherwise, it can easily be taken as like people will shut down. People have shut down from me at times, like because I might be expressing myself in a way that they're not used to. And now I seem more emotional than I seem logical. And so my whole point just gets dismissed. Nobody wants to hear it. Not only do they not understand it, but they didn't hear it either. And it's just like a lose-lose.
So they probably might not have been even intelligent enough to understand that point of view to accept it and consider your feelings in that
It's
regard.
funny that you say that, intelligent enough. And I'm glad you said that, because oftentimes people of color or people from low income backgrounds, we come to the university and we are portrayed as if we're lacking something, like we have some kind of deficit about us, like our communication style is the way it is because we are behind or something like that. And the reality is that's not true. If you've studied English language arts or linguistics, then you know that all dialects are equally valid. There is no dialect that is better than another dialect, including standard English or whatever we expect when we're talking about academia and professionalism. So it's sad that, and you're pointing at this thing of like, well, we're coming to college and we're bringing all of our cultural identities, all of our life experiences, lived experiences, and our own educations that we've had, our literacies, right? And then we get to college and a lot of people are looking at us like, well, you know, you're actually not very smart because of the way you're talking. But in reality, and then you're kind of flipping it, it sounds like, to say, well, maybe they aren't as smart to understand the way you're communicating. And it's actually both true. Like it's really about the fact that you are not knowledgeable about the way that we communicate, and we're not knowledgeable about the way you communicate, and we're having a misunderstanding. But it gets messy when that misunderstanding becomes a pointed finger of like, you're not smart enough. It's like, no, we both have a difference. And it's unfortunate that in the world of academia, like those differences aren't respected. We do validate AAVE or African American vernacular in the world of academia, but not in practice. If you talk like that, you're still gonna, people are still gonna look at you a certain type of way. That's the reality. You know what I mean? So it's like we're making progress, but it's so important to be equipped with the tools. Like, it's just better for our community to just be equipped with the tools. Like, you should be able to walk in a room with, you know, in the world of academia, or with a funder, if you're an artist and you want to appeal to a funding group. Like, you should be able to walk in there and communicate in a way that they feel like, oh, this person, he gets it. He da, da, da. Even if it's not authentic to who you are, it doesn't matter. Like, my philosophy is we have to infiltrate. We have to get our foot in the door. We have to get in. And with that takes learning the ways that are demanded of us and just doing it anyway. It doesn't mean you have to talk like that with your homies. Like, it just means like, get the money. You know what I'm saying? And then
do
use
what you
it.
have to.
Yeah, like that's what I tell people. That's what I tell young people all the time.
I think I was also alluding to, like, the receiver also has to have a certain level of emotional intelligence
Yes,
to be able
facts.
to not feel offended
100%.
and get upset about, hey, you're not
100%.
talking the way I want you to talk, so I'm going to get upset.
100%. And I will say a lot of people I've worked with lack emotional intelligence, like in the workplace. People that are CEOs and directors and professors, you know, a lot of humans in general lack emotional intelligence. It's wild.
What's one thing or one message you wish more people truly would understand about the power of communication?
What I would hope they understood about it, how impactful it is. I feel like we're careless with our words, especially with social media now. Kanye is a great example of this. I hate to bring him into this conversation, but like, and I don't know him personally, but that's the power of words. I don't know you, and your words are impacting,
disturbing so many people
my
right now.
social sphere. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like the power of words are a big deal, and you can't just tweet anything, and you can't just say anything. And if you do, there are real consequences, and they don't go away. Once it's out, it's out. You can never take back. Like, you always gotta, I would say, remember what you were taught as a child about the power of words. We were all taught, once you say something, you can't take it back. Now you got to be in a state of apology. Who wants to live with that? One thing that twists up me the most is when I fuck around and say something I shouldn't have said, and now I'm fucking twisted up inside. Now I got to deal with the consequences of how people might perceive me or perceive that, or taking it out of context or whatever. And now I'm just eating myself up because I said some shit that I really wish I never said.
Especially
like
if it's
that.
somebody that you truly care about.
It's like, don't do that to yourself. Think about what you want to say and how you want to say it before you say it. I think, especially as young people, the impulsivity, the desire to impulsively just say things, tweet things, post things. It's like, you have to stop doing that, because you have to take a moment to think about it. Take a day, sleep on it. The next day, I promise you 90% of the time, you're going to be like, yeah, I should say that differently.
Yeah.
Or if not at all.
And I think even like, it's not always the repercussions are like legal. It's, you know, from your community, backlash that could really hurt people
and hurt you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm saying this not as a pointing finger, but as a person who's done it. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've been out here doing that. I'm only 32. I'm just now at 32, fully slowing the fuck down and being like, whoa, stop. Don't just start saying stuff. Don't just start doing stuff. Think about it for a little while. You know, it does not hurt to think about it. It does hurt to just throw some shit at the wall. And if it don't stick, then, there's a mess. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just now at 32, realizing how seriously important that is.
I think when you get to that point of realizing how important it is, that process, I think it's beautiful, because you look back at everything that you did and said, you might feel embarrassed. You might feel upset at yourself.
Oh, I cringe at some of my old, I cringe. I go back on my Facebook and I'm like, oh my God, I have to delete this Facebook. If I ever get famous, they're going to destroy me alive. They're going to go to my old 2011.
I got like 2 other social media accounts I can't get into. I'm like,
the only reason I have deleted it is because I still have all my old pictures on there, but I'm like, girl, you better take that shit down, because they're going to go digging and they're going to just.
You're like, if I ever run for office, I'm screwed.
Like, screwed. Like, I just too much.
So we're going to talk about your job at U of M. You were saying earlier at Optimize. Mm-hmm. At your position, you said you're a mentor who helps students turn ideas into action.
Yeah.
What do young people today need the most? Not just in resources, but maybe in belief.
I think it's 2 things, and it sounds contradictory, but humility and confidence.
Oh, no, that's not contradictory at all.
I feel like a lot of the young people I work with lack confidence in an extreme way, and they try to make up for it with ego. And it's like, on top of that, that's why they need the humility, because I just feel like it's a lot of like very much insecure, not believing in yourself. And then, you know, you see the ego come in when we do start getting to work and trying things, or you have an idea and you start actually being brave enough to, like, you know, put it out there, work on it. You get a little attention, you know, especially with social media, that instant gratification, instant validation. It's like, I know a lot of young people whose real lives are in turmoil, and their social media lives are doing really well. And it's all because of ego. There's no humility, but you're also extremely insecure at the same time. And it's just a sad cycle that I feel like a lot of young people are in. And I would say I've even been tied up in it at times as a really young person on social media, on the internet and all that, and just in my real life. But at the end of the day, it's like, you have to make sure that you are not losing touch with your real life.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot be seeking, your success cannot be defined by social media and by the internet. Like, what you create and the relationships you make in real life are the actual things that are going to make you succeed.
Yes.
You can get famous on social media and then say you do get a bunch of brand deals and you do all this. Guess what? You're going to fuck up all that shit. Because you don't know how to have good relationships. Your ego is in the way of your humility, and you have no real confidence in who you really are. So you're influenced by too many other people who might not have your best interests. You're a liability, and companies will eventually start to see that if you don't get it together in your real life, or your real life will turn into such shit that you can't even do the necessary work to uphold the success you've gotten because your real life is falling apart. Your mental health is shit. You don't have good friends. You know what I mean? Like, that shit that we like to ignore matters the most. It's from the inside out that success has to happen. If it happens from the outside in, then it won't last for, it won't be sustainable. It's just going to like fall apart, you know?
Like I was saying that those two things are not contradictory because you can have them separate. And what you were saying is that these people that are showing their confidence isn't always braggadocious, and it shouldn't be.
No.
It should be more internalized, and then the humility comes with that.
It's the self-validation. It's the, I'm going to get up here and do my thing. I know that other people might not like it. I know there might be people who think I look stupid or who don't like what I'm doing, but I feel so confident in who I am and what I'm creating that it doesn't stop me. It doesn't interfere with my process. That's confidence. And the bravery to be able to get up and do that every day consistently is confidence. But the ego is, I want to show out. I want to show off. I want to post a pic. I want to be a baddie. I want to be that guy. You know what I mean? That's all ego, and none of that sustains a long-term vision, you know?
When someone comes to you with an idea, what's the first thing you listen for?
Ooh. Seriousness, I think. Well, that's a lie. If it's them coming to me with an idea because they want to make something happen, then I expect seriousness in the sense of like, you're willing to do the work necessary, because I'm going to lay out the work. I'm going to move on from idea to what does the plan look like? And I look for the motivation. Like, are you going to do the work for this? Because otherwise, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And I don't want to waste anybody's time, but if it's somebody who has an idea that's not fully formed, or sees a problem and wants to create an idea to do something about it, then the first thing I look for is like intentions. Like, what are your intentions behind this?
Right.
Who are you in the scope of this problem? Who are you connected to? How are you connected to this problem? That's what I look for, because not everybody should be solving every problem. And that's something I learned a lot and optimized at my job.
Right.
Really looking at like who you are. What is your positionality with this idea you have? Should you be the one to have this idea, to jump on this idea? Are you the right person for this idea? You know, because maybe your role is to find the right person for this idea. And I think there's a lot of like that I think is necessary.
Just become like a delegate of that.
Yeah. Because otherwise you see a lot of ideas get poured into by the wrong people, and then it doesn't serve the problem the way that it was supposed to, you know?
That's a good perspective.
And then you do all this work and ends up being for nothing.
Right. How do you help somebody go from I have an idea to I'm making an impact?
Gotta fix my lipstick.
Sorry.
It's a process of iteration. It's a process of social innovation, and it's really cool. We teach this at Optimize, and it starts with the idea, and then you do a constant state of iterating. That process looks like, I have this idea. Now I have to go and see, I have to do research. I have to learn about the problem that I'm trying to solve. Like with every idea, it's usually, at least in my world, I'm always working on ideas that impact people, right? Like that impact a problem in some way, that solve a problem for someone in some way, even if it's a tech thing, like, oh, a person has a hard time accessing this thing, so we made this tool to like make it more accessible. Like it doesn't matter what it is, but it's usually solving some kind of problem or pain point with people. And so it's like, once you have that identified, then it's the process of understanding the problem. You got to go through a phase of research, which we call stakeholder engagement, where you go and you identify who are all the people impacted by this problem. Who is my audience for this thing that I want to do? And then you go and you actually talk to those people. And you actually find out how they feel about it, because otherwise you're only operating off assumptions. And so once you go and validate your assumptions with people, you usually collect a bunch of information that tells you way more about the problem than you thought you knew. And then you come back to the drawing board of your idea and you say, oh, based on what I learned, what do I need to do with this idea more? What do I need to change? How do I need to iterate it? What's the next step? And then you do the next step. And then after you do that step, you engage people with it like a prototype. You have this prototype of this thing, like if it's an event for me. Oh, I love this. I have a great idea for an event for poets. I want to do an open mic, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you need to go talk to poets and see if they would even really want to do that. Are there any poets that even want to attend your open mic at this cafe? You know what I mean? Like in this area. So I go, actually, before I opened this space, I went to 5 different open mics in the city and I just talked to people and got to know people and heard from people that they would really want me to do this here. So then I'm like, okay, I should sign the lease. You know what I mean? If you don't do that piece, then like if I would have went and found out the opposite, then I would have signed the lease and it would have been like, oh my God, there's nobody at my gig. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the process. And then the prototype is me throwing the event and saying, okay, we're doing it. Boom. Everybody comes. And then learning from that, collecting data through that process. What did people feel afterwards? Talking to people and saying, how did you like the open mic? What did you not like about the open mic? What would you like to see at an open mic? So once again, I'm doing stakeholder engagement. Then I take that back to the drawing board. I make new iterations to make my open mic even better. And then I do it again and again. And that's how ideation develops over time. And that's how you scale something to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. But it's a consistent process of engaging with your stakeholders to learn how they feel, learn what they need, and not assuming that you know. And I've seen so many businesses fail and projects fail because they just go off of assumptions the whole time and they don't actually ask the questions, you know.
I love the fact that as soon as I got that question out, I just saw that motor start turning, and I can see
all these questions. You just got me like
I see the passion that you have for wanting to help people, and like you were a part of that process before, and then now you're helping other people. Do you get like a rush when that process is moving really slowly?
Oh my gosh, it's an addiction, I think, that I have, and I'm working on that and like, you know, balance, because it's like amazing. It's like you get into it and you just see how it works together. And once you learn the process of social innovation and improvement, to me, it becomes obsessive. It's just like, oh my God, every time I do this, I learn something new and I get to make changes that are even better and it gets bigger. And so to see those results happen over time, it's like, it's really cool. It's really addicting. And especially when you see it with other people, to watch them go through it and then you see it work with them and you're just like, oh my God, it worked with me and it's working with that person and that person. And now we're all doing social innovation. It's great.
Are you ever like, oh, who's next? I want to help you. I want to help you.
I don't even get the breathing room to even ask.
There's just so many people coming.
There's so many young people and people in general. I shouldn't even say young people. It's everybody. There are so many people wanting to do social innovation entrepreneurship right now and looking at problems and finding ways to solve them on their own. And there's so many people just seeking advice, mentorship, resources to solve problems in their communities and problems that they care about. And I'm just glad to be able to be in a position where I can support people, you know, through my job and then through the cafe. I'm seeing it happen all the time too.
Has there been a moment with a mentee that reminded you of why this work matters?
Yeah, so many moments. Like so many moments.
Anything specific?
Countless moments. I'm trying to think of one that would be compelling to other people. Probably recently, trying to think of a team that I've been working with recently. Because I'm going to shout them out right now. Oh, okay. I will say there's this one team, and they're called Runway Rumble. Shout out to Runway Rumble, and they'll be doing stuff here at the cafe too. They were a project that entered my program with Optimize, and their whole goal was to basically bring, like, cultivate spaces that were safe for LGBTQ community, especially regarding drag and protecting entertainers, and identifying which spaces around Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County were safe for entertainers and for the LGBTQ community to go and be empowered and also do their artistic endeavors and be paid properly. And because there's a lot of exploitation in that industry. And so there was a moment where they were planning their show, and they finalized the contestants for the show, and then they released it. And this is a drag series they were putting on. They released the people that were going to be a part of the show, and there was public backlash about why there wasn't more diversity on the cast. It appeared that it was just all non-Black people. And it looked like it was like pretty much all white cast. There were minorities and people of color on the cast, but they were just very light skinned. But just to say, but I don't think there were any Black members on the cast. And I think that was the bottom line, is like, where are the Black people in this art form that Black people have innovated for years, for decades. And so I think at that moment, when that student came to us and was like, what do I do, facing this kind of backlash? And we were able to work with them on a plan of action that could, mediate the situation. So through working with this mentee, we developed a plan for them to be intentional about, we were like, we got to think about what is a way to recruit and make Black and brown people feel welcome to participate in a series like this. And he did that. He intentionally reached out to specific groups and put out marketing and communications saying, we're specifically seeking Black and Indigenous drag queens to be a part of our show. This is a special invitation. We really want you to be a part of this. And did the work to go meet those people where they were at and learn about them and their needs and incorporate them into the show in a way that made them feel good about it. And then that was that. And the show went well, and it was really great. And everybody seemed to be happy after that. So that was just a moment where it was like, thank God for being able to provide this mentorship and do this work, because otherwise that could have turned into a much uglier situation. The whole project could have dropped, and that project had a lot of impact and a lot of potential to like really do a lot of really cool things for this community. And so I was happy that it was great that community feedback happened. They needed that, but it was great that they had the mentors to be able to lean on to get them through that instead of letting that just shut them down. And I see that across many projects where it's like it feels good to know that you can come in as a mentor in those painful moments to uplift that young person or that new entrepreneur and say like, okay, like let's not crash out about this. Let's not let our like mental, just go nuts about this. Like, let's sit down and actually create a plan and be strategic. How do we solve this problem? And just back them up on that.
Has there been a lot of other situations that are similar in that regard?
Oh yeah, so many situations. And we're talking about a lot of people who are doing this work who are first generation and have no experience running a business, doing entrepreneurial work, doing community leadership, cultivating community. These are people who are very passionate and carry certain identities and want to solve these problems in their communities, but they don't have the level of experience and knowledge and in all of that to be able to navigate all of the barriers or problems that come up like that, And so mentorship is key, because like without mentors, you can totally just, you know what I mean? Like not know how to handle a situation, and then your whole project can be negatively impacted. So the mentorship is like the backbone of what we do. It's really an integral part. It keeps projects going and flowing instead of just like, being stunted by, just like the fears of, the problems that come up, because we're talking about social innovation. These are vulnerable issues, vulnerable problems in our community.
Absolutely. You talk about navigating like the landscape of those type of issues. You were telling me earlier how you navigate your schedule and you put everything on your calendar. How do you navigate all the different positions and like creative things that you get into? Like you said, you're a mentor, which is more your job than anything creative, but you've been a poet, you've been a musician, a rapper specifically, right? You were in commercials for a Tigers jersey that came out last year.
Why?
So like I wanted to say like you're like a jack of all trades, and I thought it was so funny that I looked through your whole Instagram page and you actually have that same
I just
quote at the
deleted it.
top.
It's funny you say that because I finally deleted it. I'm like, I should.
You
probably
must have
take this
deleted it
down.
today because I just looked at your page.
I know, and I should have just kept it on there because I stand on that, because a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, basically a jack of all trades is a master of none, and they see that as a negative thing, but it's like, you never know the full quote, which is, oftentimes better than a master of one, though.
Yeah.
Like, we're oftentimes more useful, because we have these variety of skills. It's great to be an expert in something, and we need those, but
Absolutely.
But I also validate the people who are like me, who are really jacks of all trades, and we get in where we fit in, and that's very useful for a lot of people. So yeah, that's definitely me.
So, with Optimize, you've been recognized and awarded for the impact that Bloom Bodies has had on the community's youth. But beyond that, what does this work matter, or why does this work matter deeply to you?
Honestly, deep down, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I know that ever since I've been a little girl, when I saw inequity, I didn't like it. I don't know if it's probably a combination of how I was raised, along with like my mom. She's a very free-spirited person. She does not discriminate. She's very, she loves people. She's just a people lover, and my mom never, she grew up Pentecostal on her dad's side. And then my grandma was not really religious, but I think it could be a combination of just how I was raised. My mom just being, about fairness and about equality and about everyone deserving love and respect. And, that's just the values that were instilled in me when I was really young. But I think on top of that, it's a spiritual thing too. Like, I think that's the spirit that God gave me too. I really think maybe also coming from my mom, like we have similar spirits, but I also just like remember even as a little girl, just always when there was something unjust happening or something that didn't seem fair or something that was hurting someone's feelings, I was the first one to be like, no, we're not doing that. Like, I remember literally second grade not standing up for the Pledge of Allegiance and putting my hand on my chest because I just was so angry about the way the United States was treating immigrant people and stuff. And it was like on the news and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was hearing it in my neighborhood. I was hearing it, I was kind of aware because grownups talked a lot around me without sheltering me from a lot of things. So I kind of knew things that were going on. But I just felt like, even at a young age, I could see where there were like unfairness and tensions happening. And I just remember even at a young age just being like, no, I'm not going to say the Pledge of Allegiance because it's not actually true. And we are oppressing people and just like causing a ruckus all the time. Like, and I think that's just who I am still today. Like I cannot sit and be content. I just absolutely can't. I'm always going to put myself on the line every time and speak up every time, even when I don't want to. And I know it's going to cause me a bunch of backlash and I know people are going to feel a way about it. Like, I'll still do it anyway because I just can't help it. Like, I cannot sit there because I wouldn't want someone to do that for me. I would want someone to stand up for me, and I think part of that too comes from like what I've saw growing up, what I've witnessed growing up. Like, even though I come from a low income background and both my parents struggled, with incarceration and addiction, I was still very privileged compared to the people that I grew up around in a lot of contexts. Like I lived in, A-Leaf District, Houston, for example, and I saw kids that were living in the projects who are struggling with horrible homes, horrible environments with horrible parents. Like, my parents were struggling with addiction and incarceration, but they loved me. I've had friends growing up where their parents did not love them or care about them at all, weren't feeding them, weren't bathing them, weren't giving them anything, like, you know, just expecting them to fend for themselves at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. I witnessed some real atrocities in my communities that I've been a part of growing up for children and for young people. And I think that's what I think about every single time. I think what made me an educator. I just always remember being a little girl and thinking, it's so not fair that my friends don't get to have what I have. It's so not fair that my friends don't get to go to school and clean clothes and a full stomach, and you know what I mean, and encouragement when they walk out the door. Like, my friends are showing up hungry with dirty clothes, getting picked on all day, and teachers are just talking shit to them and being rude to them because teachers can be racist sometimes. And I just saw the inequity all the time, and it just made me always in a state of like, it's not fair that we're the same. We're in the same community, the same neighborhood, dealing with the same, but for some reason you just get to, you have to fall through the cracks. And these are friends who are just as intelligent, just as capable as me. So I always think about that at the root and the ground, to ground myself. Like, I'm always thinking about the kids and how, and just people, how it's not, we can't stop until everybody has the same opportunity
Right.
to be to reach their potential, and everybody has potential. So I think because I know that, it's hard for me to accept a reality where like I'm not doing something to help the problem. You know what I mean? I can't just sit there and know that like I didn't fall through the cracks, but everyone else in my neighborhood pretty much did, you know, like that's not enough for me.
Yeah. You're like, I don't want anybody else to continue that.
Yeah. Like, I have to be a part of the solution. Otherwise, I also feel extreme guilt. Like, there's that survival's guilt that comes out. Like, when you survive out of like, all the statistics were against me. Like I said, parents struggling with addiction and incarceration my whole life, bouncing around from home to home, not having money, getting evicted constantly in my life, you know, growing up and stuff, always being unstable. Like, it was very likely I was a ward of the state when I entered college. I didn't even have a legal guardian. Like, I think all of those things predicted that I would fail, and I didn't. And I think because I didn't, it's like, I feel a survival's guilt. I do feel like I have a responsibility that I have to go back and I have to help people that are in the circumstances that I was in and could have been in. You know what I mean? Had I not simply like been blessed with family members who like loved me so much. You know what I mean? But there's just too many people that I've witnessed and that we still know today in our neighborhoods who don't have that kind of support and don't make it the way that, and it's really a miracle when we do. And so I think, you know, I just won't be able, I have to live a life where I'm doing the work, because I would feel guilty if I wasn't.
You want to expand a little bit more on like what Bloom Bodies is and how that's impacted youth?
Yeah, so Bloom Bodies is not a thing anymore, but when it was a thing, it was a beautiful thing. It was intended to be a mentorship program for youth, specifically in Detroit, high school students that were looking to do anything post-graduation, any high school students, helping them do life planning and be empowered to make the right decisions and access the right resources to do what they wanted to do after they graduated, whether that, and helping them figure that out, whether that was college or a trade or you know, another endeavor, a job, just getting their lives on track. And what happened was COVID hit. We did like a series of poetry things related to Bloom Bodies where we were cultivating that community through open mics. But then we ended up putting the resources that we won from Optimize into a Black Healing Retreat. And we basically took a bunch of young Detroiters, and I wasn't there. I helped plan and coordinate things, but Kaylin Sandifer, she's from Detroit. She was present and led the whole initiative, and it was fully led by all Black Detroiters. Healthcare worker, it was like mental health professionals and a variety of other professionals like yoga instructor. We had everybody. We had a private chef come along with us. And we took everybody on this Black Healing Retreat to an Airbnb up in a beautiful part of Michigan. And it was just a really amazing, beautiful experience where, you know, Black people from the city were able to go and just take a moment to breathe. Mind you, this is happening during COVID when our communities, especially Black communities in Detroit, were getting hit. And there's already a disparity. COVID just increased that disparity. So it was just a moment to breathe and for people to get recentered and focused on their like mental and emotional well-being, and then think about how to move forward.
With, you said Bloom Bodies is no longer a thing, but with the honors that it received and the work that you do now in Optimize, what do you hope that those honors and your work would inspire in the next generation?
Hope and validation. Like, I just want young people to realize their power. I think working with young people, the thing that breaks my heart the most is young people not knowing how powerful they are. Mm-hmm. A lot of young people do, and when they do, you see it. You're like, oh my God, that young person knows what the fuck they got going on, and they're making a big impact, and they're doing their thing, and they're on fire. And then you have lots of young people from our communities who do not understand the value that they bring and don't know how to stand on it. And also will be in some dark situations as young people where they feel a little bit hopeless and they just subscribe to a mediocre lifestyle because they feel like that's all there is for them. There are a lot of young people, for example, in Detroit who have never left Detroit, don't know anything outside of Detroit, and have essentially accepted their condition in the context of their environment and in their neighborhoods. And sometimes it takes leaving Detroit in your environment to realize all of the value and resources that are present in your city around you and how to take advantage of them. Otherwise, it can feel like you're kind of stuck in a state of, the dysfunction that you have as a young person going on in your family and all the things against you. And young people are dealing with some serious shit. I mean, I can't tell you some of the things that I'm knowing about young people in the city, and no one should have to go through that. But the reality is that they are, and that's the kind of mentorship I like to provide. Is I want to validate that you're going through fucked up shit. I don't like that sugar-coated mentorship of like, oh, like be strong and like you can overcome. Nobody wants to hear that shit when your mom just overdosed and died and your brother just got shot. And you know what I'm saying? Like, this is real life shit that these teenagers are going through. These middle school kids are going through. And like, when you're working with that population, then it's really important to instill hope again and validation that like you are going through fucked up shit and no one can save you but you. And I just want to empower you to know that you can save yourself and stand on that. And I feel like that method works way better because I've gone into, even in Ypsilanti, I went into a high school and talked to some young girls and they all were sitting there like with the demeanors of like this, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to participate in this dumb shit. I'm not trying to talk to this lady. They brought me in there to talk to this particular group of girls. And, the teacher was a white lady that was facilitating it. And she just kept trying to force them to engage with me. Like, come on, guys, we have questions. Like, you should be asking these questions. And they're just like, what the fuck? Like, I'm going through real shit. I don't got time for this. That's the attitude they were giving me. And finally, I just stopped her and I'm like, it's okay. I'm like, I got it. Like, I can handle the conversation. We don't have to go through the questions. Like, and I just started sharing about myself, like, hey, this is some of my experiences, just getting real with them and saying who I am. And you could see slowly their demeanor starting to become more comfortable. Like, they were getting to know my story a little bit more. So they're like, okay, this girl might know something. She has some struggles of her own, whatever. I was getting vulnerable with them. And then I finally started asking them questions like, yeah, so like, what's going on with y'all? Like, I opened up to you, like, it would be nice if y'all could, open up to me a little bit. And they did. And their whole demeanor changed. They started opening up to me. And every single one of them was going through some shit that I don't even want to say, like just trauma. You know what I mean? And it was so amazing to see them come out of their shell and share about what they were going through. And in the end, my whole ending spiel was, that's fucked up shit. And the fact that you're even sitting here in school right now is amazing. You got up and you actually made it to school and you actually are sitting here to have a conversation with me because the stuff you're going through, I wouldn't blame you if you decided to just fall out and, and give up on life. I'm like, but you're not though. And you're here. And like the main message at the end is that you deserve to fight for your life. You don't deserve for you to let all this fucked up shit happening to you define your life in the sense of like, okay, I know you're going through it, but girl, get up and fight. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it's that piece of being a mentor that it's like, yeah, you are going through fucked up shit and it's dead ass wrong. Now, let's do something about it. Like, get up and fight for your life. You know what I mean? I want to see more young people inspired to fight for their fucking life. And if I got to be an unconventional mentor and I got to get on their level and talk crazy, that's what I'm going to do because it's life or death, literally. Like, these kids could very well either, resort to drugs, dysfunction, violence, or suicide. Our young people are literally killing themselves at an alarming rate across the nation. Like, it sometimes takes a real ass conversation and a mentor to be like, yeah, you are going through a lot of bad stuff and now you need to fight for your life and it's going to be hard, but you can do it. Because these teachers and the school system and stuff, they don't address it like that. They don't want to talk about the hard stuff. That's why these teens are like this in their fucking hoodies, because nobody wants to talk to them about how their mom's on drugs and their sister's in sex trafficking and all. No one wants to talk about it. So they're just sitting in school, like looking at school like, this is weird. This is weak. This is nothing compared to what I'm going through. You can't tell me shit because I'm going through real life shit. You're treating me like a child, but I'm going through grown up stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And when you can come out as a mentor and not treat them like that and say, nah, you are going through fucked up shit, period. You are. And yeah, you're right. You're right about everything that you're feeling right now. It makes sense. No teachers are telling these kids that. They're not letting them share the fucked up shit because in school it's inappropriate.
Right.
It's inappropriate to talk about this stuff with kids. You'll get fired. I got fired.
Really?
I got fired 3 times being a teacher because I was having real conversations about students' real experiences. They don't like that. They think it's crossing the line, getting too personal, all this and that.
Can't help somebody if you don't understand what they're doing.
And that's why our students are falling through the cracks in public schools.
Yeah.
That's part of why I wanted to start this space. And I do plan on having youth programming out of the deep end once we get on our feet.
Like a mentorship program.
Absolutely, because we need third spaces. We need spaces that are outside of the institution to have real conversations about what our young people are actually going through so they can feel heard and validated and encouraged to fight back and to fight for their life, because they are in a state of literally having to fight for their own like stability and their own like future, you know? So I hope that we can start having those conversations here in the deep end. And as an educator, I hope, especially with all the stuff going on in politics, that we can come together, and it takes doing that work, coming together in these spaces, these third spaces, to start educating our young people the right way and not let them fall through the cracks because they're missing that component that public school can't give them. Public school has a lot of value, does amazing things. We need other community leaders to step up and give that attention to the students in that raw way that we have to address, or like, you know, where the public school just can't talk about it.
Along those lines, do you ever have like a mentee that you've helped so well that they want to become a mentor themselves?
Oh yeah. All of the people that we engage with usually do become mentors naturally. It's like, once you have achieved anything, once you've learned anything, you have the ability to share it with someone else and be supportive or encouraging to someone else the same way that you experienced it. So I feel like naturally a lot of people that receive mentorship then start becoming mentors, because they're now like, oh, I have this information. Now I can see when you don't have it and I can give it if I want to, you know?
They have a better understanding of how to see it in somebody else.
And you feel more confident to help people and to like share knowledge and resources because you're like, oh yeah, I've been through this before.
Which I feel like it's not completely possible immediately, but everybody could be that.
Yeah, I think everyone can be a mentor. I think we all bring lots to the table. Like, everyone has a unique expertise. You don't have to be college educated or a professional with a business to be a mentor. You can be like, we have in our organization, we have peer mentors that are people that are like similar age group and life experience as some of the team projects. They're all students, whatever, but they're still mentors in their own right, because they have the peer mentors we hire are ones who've already been through the challenge. So they've already been through our program, and now they can come back and say, oh, we want to help you with the pain points of the program. And they have a unique perspective that I no longer have, because you went through the program just now. I went through the program in 2018. So everybody's insight, it matters and it's valuable. And in any certain context, you could be a mentor, I feel like.
So we've gone through a lot of things that learn about the way you mentor, the spaces that you're providing, the other avenues that you've went through. You know, like I said, the commercial that you've done music and poetry. So I want to get to this point of like give you your flowers and
thanks.
and tell you that like you've earned your crown. That's what this show is about.
Thanks.
You know.
Motor City Crown. I got my Motor City Crown, you know, but it's crazy because then you get the crown and it's way more work after that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of it.
Heavy is the crown, you know?
Exactly. So like the segment that we're going to do now is called One More Crown. The show is all about highlighting people that have put in work and have a story to share. And I'm going to ask you, like, would you have somebody that you would like to nominate that they have earned their crown? And then I'll name somebody myself. So if you can't think of right away, I can say mine.
I have a lot in my mind, so it's about like just picking one. But yeah, you go first.
So I'll go first. So I'm going to shine a light on someone who deserves their flowers. His name is Lando Garcia. Mm-hmm. He runs Vector Lab, which is now in New Lab at Michigan Central. And they do like vinyl signs and like screen print.
Yeah, they used to be located right on Verner. Yeah.
He's moved around a lot. Okay. He was over in Pony Ride, over around the corner over there.
Nice.
And he actually helped me when I started my brand. It was called MotorCity Crowns, and I had shirts and hoodies and stuff like that.
I love that, by the way.
He's awesome. Thank you. And he's like really big on helping the community and helping local artists to put their stuff out there. Mm-hmm. So he's been doing this, I think almost 20 years. I think he's a little bit older than me, but he's been doing this for 20 years. So I just want to shout out Lando Garcia at Vector Lab. You've earned your crown.
I love that. Shout out to Vector Lab. And oh gosh, this is so hard because I just know so many amazing people in the city.
Probably should have prepped you on that one.
Doing amazing things. Oh my gosh. So many crowns deserved. But I guess I'll pick someone who has been a mentor to me in a lot of ways. Someone who's always been someone that I feel like back and forth, always supporting one another, always I feel like my growth from day one, my journey day one with community organizing has been always with this person in my corner or helping me think about things, even challenging me at times. And we work in the same ecosystem, and that is Benito Vasquez, Mav from Motor City Street Dance Academy. Mm-hmm.
I've had him on the show, but yeah.
Well, there you go.
But no, yeah, I know everything about him. But yeah,
already got his crown. Missed that episode.
He's like everywhere. Everybody that I've talked to, like in Detroit,
and he's a great example of a mentor. He really is. He really is. He will hear everything you have to say with an unbiased. Like, he doesn't interject his personal agenda, or just a really good example of a person who lets you do your thing, but will still offer feedback and direction and resources, and even challenge you at times, and vice versa. I feel like we've done that for each other a lot, me and him, like throughout the scope of our work in the community. But outside of him, though, I would also say Antonio Cosme. I don't know if you know who that is.
No.
Antonio Cosme is like someone who does really unique work that I really appreciate, that I feel like is undervalued. He was one of the co-founders of the Rise Up when we did the Rise Up stuff back then, which was like a grassroots hip hop collective where we used hip hop in the park, took over public spaces to educate people on things that were important going on in the neighborhoods. And he does a lot of work around teaching indigenous practices when it comes to cultivating land, being self-sustaining with food, and just all things holistic. Knowing, how he takes people on excursions. He basically intentionally goes out and I forget the name of what he does, but he takes Black and brown people from the city and cultivates experiences for us to have in nature. He did maple syrup one time. He took a group out and they literally got in the woods and did the maple syrup. They made maple syrup siphoned it from the trees.
That's so cool.
Like, he does stuff like this, or he'll take you on an excursion to hunt and get the deer and actually do the whole process of breaking down that animal and like using its skin and its meat and its parts and everything. Like, he just does like the kind of work that I think is really important for Black and brown people in the city to get reconnected to nature and to like how to be self-sustaining in nature. So I think that's really, really important. And he's just a really on the ground activist. Like
I love that.
He's
That's
that
really
guy
cool.
in Detroit. So I appreciate you, Antonio, for that. You deserve a crown.
Absolutely. So I wanted to throw this in there, even though it's not like part of like what we were just talking about, but like it was like another kind of theme that I see, like the vulnerability you have, like when you're on stage or reciting a poem in front of lots of people, you're putting yourself out there, and you've kind of done like the same thing when you open a business. You're putting yourself out there. Do you feel that same kind of vulnerability, or is it
Oh, yeah.
a little different?
With poetry or
No, like
with the business?
with the business.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it a similar
Oh, yeah,
vulnerability?
for sure. Yeah. It's painful, actually. It's hard. It's not easy at all. I feel like every day when you decide to be an artist or an entrepreneur, you're basically putting your whole like you're just revealing yourself. Like you're just putting yourself up for scrutiny every day. You're nailing yourself to the cross every day. I think like that's how it feels, just because it feels like you're exposing yourself, and that could be interpreted all different ways. You might be, I have people who really don't like me. There are people who really do not like me. Like for real. There are people who really have hate toward me because of what I stand for, what I do, and the work I do. Like there are rumors that have been spread about me from people who don't like me, which are totally not true, that have seriously impacted my emotional, self. I'm a human being at the end of the day. So like the work is really, really hard. Being vulnerable in the work is hard, even if it is a business brand shielding me from some of it. Like I still think, everyone knows that you're behind the business. So at the end of the day, I'm the person who gets held accountable no matter what goes on in the business. And that can seem like, that can cause a panic attack, because it's like, like you can feel the anxiety of that, because it's like, people will sometimes tell me like, just, relax. Like my close people, they'll be like, it's going to be fine. Like, don't overthink it. Don't think about it too much. Don't overstress this. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but like I have to overstress every detail and really think about every single engagement or action that happens in the space and how it's curated, because any person that feels uncomfortable or feels offended, it's going to come down to me. So
Right.
I think that's definitely tough. The vulnerability. It never goes away. But it's a beautiful thing though.
Oh yeah.
You have to be vulnerable. Like, even though it's really hard, you can't have it any other way. You have to be vulnerable, and you have to move through that uncomfortability. Yeah. Like it's necessary. Vulnerability is necessary for growth. So
Yes. Absolutely. If everything else faded away, what's one thing that you hope people would remember about your work or business?
everything. I would hope that people would remember that it was important to cultivate joy, because often I've been thinking about like there's all this fucked up stuff going around in the world, going on in our society. It sometimes can really brainwash you to think that your joy is no longer important, that it's almost like you shouldn't be finding joy because there's more serious matters that we should be concerned about. And, in this space, we do a lot of celebrating, a lot of joyous things. We do a lot of hard things. We have a lot of hard conversations, too, also. But I would hope that both of those things will stick with people, that while we must maintain and address these we must maintain the space, hold space for having hard conversations that challenge us, we also have to equally hold space for cultivating joy.
Yeah.
And that is also resilience, to do that, because that is what the whole purpose of us being alive is for. You know what I mean?
Yes.
In my opinion.
I believe exactly the same thing.
And the work is to make a better world so we can have that all the time. But
Have that for everybody.
Yeah, but while all of the powers that be want to destroy our opportunities for joy, it becomes revolutionary and activism to cultivate joy. So I just hope people remember that.
Yes. What's a lesson you're still learning as you continue your journey?
How to be just a better person. You know, I'm still a person at the end of the day. I have my own issues. I have my own problems. And every day I'm still just trying to learn how to hold myself accountable to being the best version of myself that I can be for my kids, for my community, for my loved ones. And I'm not always doing that. Like, let's be real. Like, it's hard to do that all the time. Sometimes I don't show up for my kids in the way I need them to. Like, I might not be excited about the thing you just did. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I don't show up in the right way with the certain community members. Sometimes I'm having a rough time and what they're saying is just like, I don't have the patience and I might snap a little bit. I might be snappy in my tone, little shit like that. Like, I'm still working on every day, because at the end of the day, balancing your own mental wellness and your own joy and your own, self validation, you got to balance that with the way that you make other people feel. And so I still struggle with that on a daily basis, because I know I love people, but knowing you love people and showing you love people is two totally different things. So I'm just constantly still working on like how to always better show up for people.
Yeah. This might be where a mentor could be helpful.
Oh yeah, I have mentors. Everybody needs mentors.
I just mean in general. I know you.
Oh yeah, like trust me, I would not be able to do any of this without mentorship. Like, I'm constantly seeking advice from people and everything, and young people too. Like, I really don't think mentorship has an age.
What do you hope the next generation does better than we did?
Seeking coming to their own conclusions. Like don't believe everything everybody's telling you, even if it is true or sounds good. Do more research. I hope that now in this age with way more information, access to information, we literally have ChatGPT. Like, use it. I hope this generation uses technology and all of the access they have to information to do the research and ask the hard questions, and never take anything that they ever read or see as face value off rip. There's too much false information, too many negative opinions. There's too much misinformation. And I think even with us, we were told, our generation was told, go to college, get a good job, go to a trade if you can't go to college. But I feel like they did the trades a disservice. I feel like we were all shoved college down our throats.
Yeah.
Everybody should go to college or else like you're not going to have a good life, basically, is the messaging I feel like a lot of our generation heard. And I think that was a big lie and a big bad piece of advice. I think college is great, but I don't think everyone needs to go. And I think that, our trades are suffering now because they're needing people and no one values trades anymore. Our generation doesn't value trades the way that we should. And so, I hope young people just question everything and use the access they have to information to ask all the questions and really come to your own conclusions about what you need to do for your own life. And no cookie cutter version that anyone pitches to you is the answer for you. Yeah. You have to decide your own life. You cannot let everybody else decide your life.
Figure it out and question everything.
Yeah, because a lot of our generation is now really struggling with student debt because they were told, regardless if you go in debt, it's a good investment. That's not true. That's not true.
That's a whole nother argument.
That's not true. So yeah, you gotta, don't just believe what everybody's telling you.
If you could sit down with your younger self right now, what would you tell them?
I would just give my younger self a hug. And probably just be like, just cry. You don't have to be angry. You know what I mean? Because like my younger life was full of anger and rebellion. And while that was good in some situations, it was bad for me in most situations. And I think I was afraid to be vulnerable and cry and admit that I was hurting. I wanted to be strong all the time. And I think like I would just go back and be like, just cry. It's okay. And stop being angry because that's not good.
I mean, that's a good message though.
Yeah, it's easy to like turn your hurt into anger. Especially, I feel like in some of the neighborhoods I grow up in, I feel like that's kind of what you're taught to do as a survival mechanism. Like, you don't have time to be a crybaby. Nobody can see you be a crybaby, you know? And it's like, if you do, you're gonna get bullied for being a crybaby, or you might get seen as less masculine or less strong. And so, you know, we gotta like unlearn that. And I would like to go back to my old self if I could and be like, that's not a good way to be. Just cry, just feel your sadness so that it can leave, you know, and then you can move on and like be logical in your behaviors. I did a lot of toxic behaviors in my young adulthood that put me in a lot of bad situations. My whole credit is fucked right now. And that's simply because I was coping in all the wrong ways. I was partying, drinking, flexing. I was all up in my ego because I was hurting and I just wanted to stunt and make it seem like I was good even though I wasn't. And that led to me having lots of feelings of anger because instead of like letting my sadness be a thing, it would just evolve into an angry sort of sentiment, and I would just see that. Now I look back, I'm like, that came out in a lot of ways at a lot of the wrong people. So yeah, that's that.
Well, I just want to tell you, thank you for doing the podcast
Thank
today.
you. You got me on my TED Talk. You give me a mic and I can't shut up. It's a problem, but not in these situations.
Do you want to plug like your social media, anything like that?
Please follow us at TDE Cafe. TDE Cafe, the Deep End Café and Gallery, located now in Southwest Detroit. It's lit.
Well, thank you so much. I'm your host, Robert Solano Sanchez. Don't forget to shop small, support local artists, and check out the Deep End Cafe. Check out everything that Oceania has done, and you know, follow me on the Instagram.
Yeah, follow
MotorCity Crowns. Check out on YouTube, and you know, we got a lot of interviews coming, a lot of podcasts coming.
MotorCity Crowns, don't sleep, okay? Because people's stories, these stories are really important, and you ask the right questions. I've been on a lot of podcasts, and no shade, but like your questions are getting at the real topics that we need to be talking about. These questions are great. I almost want you to like submit them and like share them because other podcasters need to have an idea of the good questions. So yes, come on guys.
I took my time.
We need to give our views to Motor City Crowns so we can hear these valiant stories from all of our community leaders.
Well, it all stems from the people that I interview. So thank you. This is the Motor City Crowns Podcast, where passion reigns and excellence is crowned. I will see you next time.
That is so aligned.